So if you'll turn to page 34 in your gold prayer book, or just open to the prayers if you have the white binder. And we'll start with the Shakyamuni Buddha mantra 3 times, followed by the Medicine Buddha stanza and mantra, and the 4 immeasurables. Te ata mune mune maha munaye soha. Te ata mune mune maha munaye soha. Te ata mune mune maha munaye soha. Bhagawan, with equal compassion for all, whose name, when merely heard, dispels the suffering of the lower realms, dispeller of disease and the 3 poisons, I prostrate to Medicine Buddha, lapis slide. Te ata bekanse, maha bekanse, raja samudgate soha. 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 May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Now flip to page 37, and we'll chant the 4 immeasurables in Tibetan, and then we'll chant Chenrezig's mantra 8 times and Green Tara's mantra 7 times. Sem chen tam che de wa dong de we gyu dong den par gyur chig du ngao dong du ngao gi gyu dong drel war gyur chig du ngao me pe de wa dong ni drel war gyur chig ne ring chog dong ni dong drel wei tong yum la ne par gyur chig. Om mani padme hum. tu re so ha. Om tare 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 tu re so ha. Okay, the children can go to their classes now.
Okay, testing. Oh, it's working. Okay, we'll follow the suit, and just like Geshe-la says, let's take 2 or 3 minutes and just introduce each other, person next to you. So take a few minutes and introduce yourself. So good morning, and thank you for coming this Sunday. You could have been at the fair, but thank you for choosing to come here. So yeah, I know it's a parking problem. So today I'd like to give you a quick overview, a short overview of one of the modules that we teach in Discovering Buddhism. It's called Presenting the Path. Obviously, we can't teach the entire module, nor the entire teachings, but at least give you an overview. And the reason is, we've heard Geshe-la talk about 84,000 teachings Buddha gave, 84,000. So the question comes up, right? Where do I begin? Where do I start? You know, there's a lot of teachings. You can hear sometimes words like, oh, there are sutra teachings and Vinaya teachings and Abhidharma teachings, and it starts to get a little jumbled up. So the point today here is, we are so thankful that we are fortunate to have Lama Tsongkhapa's teaching, who is behind the throne with his two students. He's taken the time to structure and package these teachings in a way that can take you step by step in a progressive manner. It gives you a great overview of what the subject and topics are. Okay. One thing to keep in mind, that it is an unbroken lineage. And what does that even mean? Unbroken lineage. Do you just get to know each other? No, it's authentic teachings. So that's very important. That this is how the teacher teaches the student becomes a teacher, the teacher then goes on and teaches the student, and they keep it in the same lineage of teaching, so it doesn't get diverted, right? And I would even suggest to you that when you are reading different books, it's wonderful to gain knowledge, but keep in mind, who is it that's writing the book? So keep your teachings in a concise manner so you can follow some sort of a lineage. So we are very lucky for that. And the purpose of this overview is simply to expose you to all the dots, right? There's so many topics. You know that when you have a visiting teacher, or when we go into one class, you get into deep subject matter, but then you forget how things are connected sometimes. You know, how the entire picture comes up, right? Where am I in this training? Okay, so it's important. So I thought that this would be a great subject today. It's one of the modules in Discovering Buddhism, as I said. And so I'm just going to take the overview now. The teachings obviously are much, much deeper. Okay, it takes, even if you know Geshe degrees take 26 years plus more, right? It takes a long time to learn some of these things and actually practice. But sometimes it's good to just get a quick overview of how things are organized, right? So today is the session on that, okay? All right. So before we get going, I think we should bring our minds from the fair to the Kadampa Center. So let's just do a let's do a little calm abiding meditation and set the motivation, okay? So paying special attention to your posture. And first of all, I should ask, how many people are new here? First time? All right. So I'll try to slow down. And if you still have some questions, because some words and some of these parts are maybe a little too complex, and for others it may be very basic, right? So feel free to stop by and talk, okay? And I'll be more than happy to, after the class, to point out what is it that I meant by what I said, okay? So but just keep your mind open and listen and enjoy. Okay, so for 7-point meditation, I purposely put down all the points here so that people who haven't done it or are not familiar with it, with the posture, at least you can start to think about those things. So start with your back, keep it straight and relaxed, fully upright, not tight. Legs, for those seated on the cushion, the legs should be crossed in a vajra position, or what they call full lotus position. And for those on the chair, feet should be flat on the floor, and you may use the cushions. Your arms are loosely on your lap, and hands resting about 2 or 3 inches below your navel, and the thumbs are touching each other like a teardrop. Okay? The head is slightly inclined forward, and you can gaze on the floor in front of you. The jaw and mouth are not tight, they are relaxed. The teeth are slightly apart, lips lightly touching each other. Your tongue rests lightly on the upper palate, tip touches the back of the upper teeth. and your eyes shut in the beginning, if that's fine, that's perfectly fine, or slightly open, just to be aware of what's around you. And then take a few deep breaths in order to bring your attention inward. So for each inhalation and exhalation, you're going to focus on your breath. Okay, it's a neutral thing to focus on. So for each inhalation and exhalation, simply count in your mind silently. 1 inhale and 1 exhale, 1. Just in your mind. Okay, we're going to do about 10 of those. Okay, helps us with the concentration. And let's just go with the flow with that rhythmic in and out cycle. So inhale, inhale, and then out breath, 1, exhale. Then again, inhale, exhale, 2, just that way. So do that for a few minutes. Please don't try to control your breathing in any way. Just let it come and naturally go. And then continue to maintain your focus on your breathing as you count. Along the way, you may find that you become distracted or the mind starts to wander elsewhere. That's perfectly fine. Just observe it and gently bring your mind back to your breath. And start your count again. Now, in the calm and quiet space of your mind, let's create a positive motivation for our time together today. Think to yourself that you're not doing this just for yourself alone, just for your own needs, but instead, you're engaging in this meditation practice in order to develop your mind, in order to become a better, wiser, and more compassionate individual. One that is able to bring happiness and well-being into the lives of others. So take a moment to generate just such a positive motivation. Thank you. Okay. Open your eyes and come back to Kadampa Center. Okay. I have a quote here. Have you guys, I don't know, some of you may have seen the CD. It's called The Discovering Buddhism. That's really narrated and hosted by Richard Gere. Okay, it's a wonderful CD. When you get a chance, I think some of these episodes are also on YouTube, but it's really a really nice one. It gives you a great overview of all the modules, and it starts with a great motivation. It goes and covers the subject in a nice summarized way, and a great dedication for every topic. I couldn't help myself but to take this particular note that he provides here. So just take a look at that. And this is a great introduction to the class today. And he says, and I quote, that Buddhism is a comprehensive system that shows us how to transform our minds from the state of suffering to satisfaction to one of an extraordinary joy, awareness, and contentment, vast in scope and profound in its implication. I couldn't put those words together. That's just amazing. It really covers and gives you a great overview of Buddhism. Okay? Buddhism accommodates every kind of mental disposition, but retains a laser-like precision, shows us what to be accepted and what is to be rejected. It was realized and embodied by a human being like us. That's another powerful statement. Please continue to read. So 2,500 years ago, an Indian prince named Siddhartha from the Shakya clan decided to give up his kingdom to search for a way out of suffering. Okay? Suffering is sometimes misunderstood by people. Okay? It's generally means, there's no translation from Sanskrit or Tibetan to the word in English, suffering. It is more like dissatisfaction. It's not saying you don't have happy moments, temporary happinesses. But generally speaking of birth, life, sickness, death, if you think about all the problems we have, that's what they mean by that. The word is called dukkha, okay, in Sanskrit. Because of his relentless determination to find ultimate freedom, he came to understand the nature of his mind, and in turn, the ultimate reality of all phenomena. He was then called Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha. So put yourself in that position also. Right? We all want to become Buddha or enlightened. Right? So I thought that was a great quote. Okay, so a little background. Again, we talked about the unbroken lineage, right? And authentic teachings. So these teachings come all the way from Buddha himself, right? So in 4th century, he, under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, became enlightened. And following that time, he decided to teach. They call that the turning of the wheel, the first 3 wheels, they call it. First one was the Four Noble Truths, Deer Park in Sarnath, India. And then the second one was in Rajgira, Vulture's Peak, called Perfection of Wisdom. That's where Heart Sutra comes from. For those not familiar, it's in our prayer book. When you get a little interested in it, take a look at it. Okay, it talks about emptiness and sunyata. So if you're interested, you can take a look. There's no way we can cover all the details today, just to give you an overview. And then the third one was kind of a guideline or reconciliation. He taught according to the capacity of the people, and so that people don't misunderstand something, he kind of put those things in perspective, and that was his third turning of the wheel. And then we have Lama Atisha in 11th century. Okay, he again is really the beginning of our tradition. Is considered Lama Atisha. He's sitting right there, maybe behind the screen for some of you. And he was invited in Tibet by a king. And though Buddhism already was established or flourished in Tibet, people had lost the plot. Again, we talk about 84,000 teachings. Then you bring in your traditions, the Bon religion and other things. People were kind of lost. They had lost the plot. So Lama Atisha wrote this small, concise book called The Lamp of the Path to the Enlightenment. That's the beginning of the training, the teachings that we have. But then let's jump to 14th century Lama Tsongkhapa. He is the founder of our tradition, Geluk tradition. He's the revitalizer of Sutra and Tantric teachings, and he condensed and he created this syllabus. And it's just making sure if you've seen these books that are outside, there are 3 volumes, and he wrote this great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. If you're really interested in learning the details and every topic and subtopic of that, then this is a great book to have, and at least take a look at it once in a while, and you'll find a lot of information there. I also would like to suggest that sometimes 3 volumes is a lot to read, but thicker but smaller than 3 volumes, is A Liberation in Palm of Your Hand. I find myself going to this all the time, even for this overview. I just wanted to make sure that looking at all the topics and subject matter, how it's organized, and I found this to be very helpful. So just kind of giving you just in case you wanted to refer to something. Okay, so then we have Lama Tsongkhapa, and all the way down the unbroken lineage of our teachers here, right? There are many, many teachers. Of course, I can't fit every picture in it, but I wanted to give you some glimpse of how these teachers are so precious. The teachings are so precious, and how authentic they are, and how hard they work, and they have compassionate mind to come here and teach us. So I'm just full of gratitude. And even we have Geshe-la, we have his teachers, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, His Holiness, and then of course Geshe Sangpo. Okay. Okay, so again, 84,000 teaching. Let's start with an analogy. Okay, so what are we talking about? So think about it. When you talk about taking a trip or going to a conventional education system, we are fully familiar with preschool, elementary school, right? We are familiar with middle school or junior school, high school, postgraduate, kind of fits in. It doesn't make sense to take a young kid 5 years old and put him in high school. He doesn't have the capacity, correct? Same way, if you're planning a trip to New York, certainly we can Google now, but you would have a plan. You would sit down and think about, okay, should I take 95 from here? Which cities will I pass? Do I have the money to pay the tolls? Unless you want to sit in New Jersey and look at Manhattan, you're not going to get to the Lincoln Tunnel, right? So it's important, right? It's important to plan, to think about it. Where am I going? Like a map, right? So, but when it comes to spiritual journey, we kind of get lost. It's like we kind of latch onto a few things here or there, see what's good, what's not. So it's important to have some sort of an organization. Okay? So I may not be able to cover everything, but the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa is called Lamrim Chenmo, meaning stages of the path, and stages, meaning we have 3 scopes here, and you can see very clearly that the lower scope, we have a middle scope and a greater scope, very much like elementary school, junior school, and then your high school. Now, obviously, this does not encompass the entire Lamrim. There are some preliminary practices, there are some preparatory practices, such as we should, when we write a book or take somebody's quote, we give them the right respects, right? That this, I took it from so-and-so, so you don't plagiarize, right? Similarly, you must think about the teachers, the authors that wrote it. You must think about the greatness of the teachers. You must think about the greatness of the Dharma. And then there are some preliminary practices. If you're not doing a practice, you must establish something in your daily practice so that you can then follow the teachings. So that's like the beginning part of it. And then it jumps into the Lamrim teachings. So these are various topics. Obviously, we can't cover everything here today, but my intent was to give you a good overview, and sometimes we get lost or deeper into one topic and forget how it all connects, so we can look at it in a, like fly a little high up, just have a vision from the top, high level, okay? So we will talk about the precious human rebirth, a little bit about death and impermanence. It's obviously important to know different realms, and then what is a refuge. Karma, I think Robbie Watkins is the director here 2 weekends ago. If you were here, you learned some beautiful, he teaches so well the laws of karma, very important piece of this, right? And you got some little overview from him. And obviously then you go to the middle scope and you start learning about the 4 noble truths, the causes of the suffering, and then what keeps us in this life and death cycle. And they're named 12 links. Don't worry about the names, it's just an understanding of it. And then you get to the greater scope, and you get into what is equanimity, what the heck are we talking about when we talk about emptiness, bodhicitta, and obviously the 6 perfections. 6 perfections, it plays a very big role, because it's one thing to think about these things, right? And know the topic intellectually, but then you have to put it in action. And 6 perfections are doing these actions. It's easy to say generosity, and it's okay to say morality, but then you actually do something about it. Okay? And Lama Yeshe had an example I was reading just yesterday, and he said, yeah, you bought your ticket to Europe, but now you got to actually go, pack your bags, sit in the plane, and be there, and go there, otherwise you just have the ticket. So same way, 6 perfections are called method. That's what we do when we live in a conventional life. Okay? So with that, I think it's important sometimes for people to lose what they're talking about. We use these words samsara, nirvana, enlightenment, so many words. What does it really mean? Have you really sat down and just for a moment say, okay, let me refresh myself? So I took some definitions down. You can take a quick look at it. So the word nirvana, we talk about liberation. Okay? We are trying to get liberated. So it's a state of complete freedom from samsara, or this cyclic life. The goal of the practitioner seeking his or her escape from suffering. It's more individual oriented. Okay? But then you take to enlightenment. So we talk about our goal is to get enlightened. It's a Mahayana concept, more of a universal goal. And what you bring in is the concept of compassion in it. And so enlightenment, fully awakening Buddhahood, omniscience, the ultimate goal of a Mahayana Buddhist, attained when all obscurations have been removed and all qualities of mind have been fully actualized, a state characterized by perfect compassion, wisdom, and power. Good to know the difference. Okay? Some more definitions. Okay? So let's talk about the qualities of Buddha. If everybody talks about you have the potential to become a Buddha, what does it mean to be a Buddha? You know, it's a wonderful thought, but have you really sat down and think, what is Buddha? Okay, so just a short version here. There's a lot more to this. I just wanted to give you an overview. So omniscient, right? Everything you see perfectly minds of others. Right? Knows everything, sorry. And to see perfectly the minds of others. To seeing things as they are, clearly. Right? And then the omnipotent. Okay? Has an infinite power, the endless ability to do whatever needs to be done. Put this together and what you get. A wisdom that knows exactly what and how, where and what, and who. With the capacity to do what needs to be done to perfectly benefit all beings. That's a Buddha. Right? So all-knowing, all-compassionate, all-wise, all-pervading. Okay? And the good news, right, is the bottom line. Buddha says we all have that potential. Right? That's the most powerful statement, I think. Okay? 2 more, and then we'll be done. Okay? We also talk about samsara. So out of the Buddhahood, omniscient mind, come down to samsara, cyclic life here. Okay? It's the beginningless, reoccurring cycle of death and rebirth under the control of delusion and karma. And it's fraught with suffering, dissatisfactory life. Okay? And then we should know one word. We always hear the 3 poisons. We hear so many things about the word ignorance. Conventionally, we know the word ignorance. You don't know something, you're ignorant of it. But here, we are talking about literally not seeing that which exists, or the way which things exist. Okay? There are basically 2 kinds of ignorances, of karma and ignorance of ultimate truth, the way things are. Okay? Ignorance is a fundamental delusion from which all others spring. So once you do not see the things the way things are, and you go with a strong I in you, it starts with the ignorance of you think that we really are here, I exist in here. Then you have ignorance, you develop attachment. I like it, I don't like it, You don't please me. I love you. I hate you. So it starts with the attachment. And when that doesn't happen the way it pleases you, you develop aversion or anger. Those are the three poisons. So when you hear the word three poisons, when we did Medicine Buddha, he says, bless me, take away my three poisons. That's what it means. Okay? So far, so good? Okay, with it? Okay. Okay, so before we go into the topics, and I'll cover the topics in a quick manner, but I think it's important to understand, just like you want to paint your house or paint your car, we need a primer. There are some fundamental things you should know, especially when you're trying to understand the teachings in Buddhism. Okay? And so what we call them the preliminary contemplations. The first one is the nature of the mind. The second one is the need for a spiritual teacher. And the third one is the precious human rebirth. And the precious human rebirth is not only a primer, but it also falls into the lower scope, the beginning stages of learning the topics of the Lamrim, the stages to the path. Okay? So let's just take a quick look at what is the mind. Okay? The nature of the mind. The Sanskrit word is chitta. We say the bodhi chitta. In Tibetan, it's called sem. And you see words like sem chen, mind possessor. Okay? So it's synonymous with consciousness and defined as that which is clear and knowing, a formless entity that has the ability to perceive objects. And those that are interested in learning more about it, again, I call out Robbie Watkins' name. He was the first one I learned Mind and Its Potential, a great module in discovering Buddhism, and it really gets into the depth. And I think it's amazing to see how in Buddhism, how nicely and how organized way they talk about mind and its potential. Okay? Of course, just in a general, mind is divided into six principal consciousness and 51 mental factors, and I'm not going to go into that, but you should be familiar with the thing that mind is beginningless. It's your own. It is not physical, not your body, and it's not your soul, and it's not your brain. Has a marvelous potential, and the whole spectrum of your inner and outer experiences is your mind, and the enlightenment is its potential. Okay? The second one is a spiritual teacher. I know some people back out of this subject matter. It may be close to some people, other people have a little trepidation about spiritual teacher, even the words. But let me just talk about it. We have no problem when you think about your mother that helped you walk, hold your hand. She was a teacher. For those who like to cook, we have no problems asking your aunts and your mother, how many teaspoons? Right? A little bit of that, pinch of that, pinch of that. How long do you bake it? 320 degrees. There you have your cake. We have teachers. Think about your kindergarten, first, second, third grade. There was a teacher. Somebody taught you. So our parents have been teachers. We've had teachers all our lives. So conventionally, we are okay with it. When it comes to spiritual, it's like, because some people have had bad experiences. So what do? It is absolutely a primer. So what we say is, you should look for a good teacher. So what you check the teacher's quality. Okay? When you see Venerable Amy Miller come here, or Venerable Robina comes here, or we have a teacher coming, Venerable Chernoff is coming here, when you walk away and say, wow, that was wonderful, you see how good they are, then it's very easy to see who is their teacher. So you can see that if they have a teacher and they learned that well, and they are teaching this good, there is something to that teacher. That's one way to look at it. Okay? Check their students, check their peers. You need confidence in you. And once you have that confidence, then you have faith in the teacher. And once you have that faith, then you must realize how to develop yourself and how to devote yourself to the teacher properly. And there's a whole teachings on that, how to devote. Okay? But it is essential, yet for many it's a difficult part of the teaching, and we need to know why we need a teacher. Okay? So think about that. And we are very lucky to have some teachers here. Okay? Precious human rebirth. I'm not going to take a lot of time in this, but I think it's because it's a contemplation, something to think about, a primer. Okay? Human life is just one option of many. Okay? Think about animals out there. That's a life too. But you have a beautiful opportunity to practice. That's why it's precious. You're born in a place like this country, and you have a place like Kadampa Center to come to, or a place of practice. How fortunate. So it's good. It's a precious human rebirth, right? A precious life. We have a reasonably healthy body. At least we can say reasonable, sane mind, reasonable conditions. We have shelter and food, right? And not completely overwhelmed by huge delusion. Many of us are, including me, but not huge, right? Okay, so we should contemplate how extraordinary and fortunate we are, and because of your past life, past hard work, you have taken this rebirth as a human, and you have a chance to practice. Okay. So those are the 3 contemplations. Okay, following my notes. Another quote by Nick Rybush. He was one of the first Westerners to be ordained as a monk in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and is a founder of Wisdom Publications. He's currently a director of the Lama Yeshe archives, Wisdom Archives. I go to that archive all the time. If you want a meaning or you want to learn something about it, just wonderful reading, it's there for you. Okay? But great quote, every single moment of our precious human life gives us opportunity to purify eons of negative karma and take great steps towards enlightenment by engaging in the profound practices of the Mahayana path. Right? So summarize that. So we understand the nature of the mind, we understand the necessity for a teacher, and then precious human rebirth. Okay, any questions so far? Thank you. Now, the real stuff, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you say born in a country that has spiritual teachings. Well, what if you're not born here? You can.
Well, that is your
immigration is possible.
Sure, it is
Asylum
possible. It's based on your karma, your past activities, and we'll talk about that in the little bit of the karma that I cover. We'll talk about how your previous life, previous actions, many lives. It depends on when your karma has a fruition. You could be born in an environment the teachings are hard to come by.
So
You may have to
immigrate.
or you may find the right person that takes you, whatever the case may be. But there are teachings are available based on your karmic background, and when it's available to you, at least we can say they're available. You can read, you can find out, you can learn, you can Google, but when the time is right, the teachers do come and teach you, right? It's just in a general, you have to look at us right now in this Kadampa Center. We are fortunate that we have Kadampa Center, right? So if you go to some other countries, they have some Buddhist centers there too. We have a beautiful FPMT has many centers. But just in short, the idea is that you have this human life, don't waste it. And that's why it's precious, right? And we'll talk about it. After the class, I can give you some examples of how people who are born in a country where there is no Dharma, why. We can talk about that, okay? So the lower scope. Okay, so we already talked about the precious human rebirth. Obviously, the death and impermanence, suffering and rebirth, refuge and the laws of karma. Okay, those are the topics. I won't take too much time, but just give you a quick idea of what it is. Okay, let me see, death and impermanence. So when we covered in this module, when we covered the death and impermanence, we go into a lot of depth. We go into the 8 stages of dissolution, 4 of the elements, 4 of the subtle consciousness. But for right now, the most important piece is death is definite. It's going to happen. The time of the death is uncertain. And the point is that the time of the death is extremely important. If you practice tennis for hours and hours every single day, at some point in your life, you'll get good at playing tennis. So if you put in so much garbage in our mind and don't practice, then when you're dying, what happens? You cling and grasp to things that you've been practicing. So the time of the death is important, right? So this is again, the idea is not to have fear. It's an organic process. We believe in karma. We believe in life going on. Mind continues to go on. It didn't start all of a sudden. It had a previous moment, and that had a previous moment. So death is an organic, natural process. You should think about it, understanding, and take this precious human life as an opportunity to practice so that your next life, hopefully, is a better one. That's the whole idea behind understanding and how we are impermanent. Okay? So we need to train and prepare. Then the second piece quickly goes into the suffering of the lower realms. Again, not to get into details. In our teachings, they talk about the higher realms of like God realm and jealous God realms and human realm. Those are considered the high realm. And then there are lower realms like animal realm, hungry ghost realms, and hell realms. Again, that's just realms. For purposes of this training, just wanted to point out, think about your pets, your animals. They are also samchens, mind possessors, so be kind to them. Okay? And they have potential to be enlightened. So all animals, all life is important. Okay? In Buddha's term, humans are a tiny percentage of all samchens, all the minds that exist. So we need to contemplate the possibility of suffering realms of the rebirth in order to get a very strong sense of not wanting to go there. So now that you're completely primed, you understand the precious human rebirth, you have some understanding of how the teachers are teaching us. Maybe this is the time you've decided you want to take a refuge. So what is a refuge, right? To whom can I turn? You determine this makes sense to me. This is something I would like to practice, right? I want to do something about this precious human rebirth. So then you ask this question: to whom can I turn to give me the methods and to avoid this type of intense suffering? So the Buddha's path. Where's the doctor? We say, right? Where's the doctor? And what is the antidote? So it's the Buddha's. We take refuge in the Buddha. Okay. Then we rely on the teachings or Dharma. And then we rely on the Sangha, our spiritual community. It's almost like the doctor, the medicine, and the nurses, right? Give me the prescription, right? So that's why you take a refuge. It's a great ceremony, by the way. It really kind of makes you feel really just firm inside you when you take refuge by really from teachers, qualified teachers. So that's refuge. So we take refuge. And obviously we can go, karma itself is a huge topic, but in very short, okay? It's the cause and effect, okay? And just know shortly, positive actions produce happiness, and negative or non-virtuous actions produce suffering. Buddha says, everything we do, say, think is karma, which leaves a seed in our consciousness, our mind, that ripens in the future as our experiences. Okay, and though we are familiar with the small, short time scale, we say, karma. Somebody does something bad, something happens to that, tit for tat. We say karma. But according to Buddhism, it occurs over lifetimes. Okay? Good. It's a law. It's like gravity. I know Newton studied it, presented it, and we call it Newton's law. But gravity always existed, right? The gravity was always there. It's just somebody found it, studied it, and scientifically, and then was able to present it. Same way, laws of karma are already there. We just need to understand that it's a natural law. That's why it's called a law. Okay? There are 10 non-virtuous actions, and there are 4 ways the karma ripens. We go into details. This is not the place, but if you are interested, you should come to Discovering Buddhism, take the module, and we can really get into the depth. But specifically, there's a module on karma itself, and they get into real deep into understanding of karma. Okay, and the way your karma ripens, they cover all those things. And for those people that sometimes including me, that forget what are the virtuous actions and the non-virtuous actions, these are the body, speech, and mind. The non-virtuous actions of the body, speech, and mind. 3 of the body: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. 4 of speech: lying, speaking harshly, slander, gossip, right? And then the 3 of the mind: covetousness, ill will or anger, and wrong views. And we'll end the small scope with a nice little quote. Anyways, those non-virtuous actions, Buddha suggests that we avoid them. Very simply. Okay, here's a beautiful quote from Master Nagarjuna. Okay, all actions of body, speech, and mind created with an attitude of greed, hatred, and ignorance lead to suffering. From all actions created with opposite attitude of love, compassion, and wisdom, only happiness comes. Okay, this is a great master, and we talk about our tradition and the middle way of thinking and all that. When you are getting advanced, he played a big role in presenting the middle way of teaching. Okay, so Nagarjuna. Okay, let's jump to the middle scope. Okay, here we learn about 4 noble truths, the causes of suffering, and then what keeps us in this cyclic existence. Okay, and so very quickly, the truth of suffering, or dukkha, we mentioned it, okay, which is again unsatisfactory life, dissatisfaction, complications, sickness, old age, death, rebirth. That's what Buddha said. So that's the truth of the suffering. There is suffering. The causes of the suffering. And different places will tell you all different numbers, but they all agree the 3 poisons, which are ignorance, attachment, and anger or aversion. And there are other afflictions, pride and envy and all those things, but 3 major ones. Everything else stems from these 3. Then there is a cessation. Suffering can be ended. That's a very great statement. Think of all our mind, body, and speech actions we do. You can cease that. You can purify. And in the end, they show us the path. Buddha shows us the path. Okay? And and I also during the lower scope, middle scope, and the greater scope, when you reach the greater scope, you also see the 3 principal aspects of the path, key things, that when you are in this samsara, you need to have a yearning that I don't want this. I want to be free. I want to be enlightened. If you're looking for a job, for example, any job, wouldn't you want to put out your resume and find out that are you even capable of working there? Does that organization fit you? What do they do? Don't we learn about them a little bit? So we can do that conventionally, but if you want to become a Buddha, you should know what enlightenment is, right? It's important. It's like checking it out. Hey, I want to get there. What do I need to do, right? So you need to renunciate from, you want to have a mind of renunciation to say, they're not talking about leave your car and leave your home, shave your head off and go into some cave. That's not what they're talking about. It is a mind that they're talking about. You can look at things and how attached you are versus how you can view it. You're lucky you have a karma to have something nice, enjoy it, but don't be clinging on to it, right? So kind of think about those things. That's what they mean by renunciation. Obviously, we need to have a wisdom of emptiness, how things exist. Okay? We are so caught up in our conventional life and our own perceptions that we need to sometimes clear that out, and that's emptiness, understanding of emptiness. And obviously, the biggest piece is cannot be done without bodhicitta, the compassionate, kind mind, and to benefit all sentient beings. Okay, we saw that in the definition of enlightenment, right? You can be liberated, you can cut the chatter out and feel free a little bit, but if you truly want to be enlightened, very important aspect of it is the bodhicitta. So these are the 3 principal aspects of the path. Okay. Again, not to get into a lot of details, but we keep talking about what are these 12 links of interdependent origination. All this is saying is this is like a chain of events that happen. And this is what keeps us coming back again and again and again. And just to give you a quick, it starts with the one poison, ignorance, not knowing who this I is or how I is, should be seen. Okay? You're not understanding the way phenomena exist. So it starts with ignorance, not knowing. And then all your actions that you do. And then when you go around, you start to develop attachment. So you have cravings and clinging. Then it becomes, that I becomes a little solid. And then when it comes to the rebirth, this is what you carry with you. You bring those seeds with you. You start to have those little seeds blossom, and that carries on this life. And then you're given this name, and you have this identity, a label, and then your organs develop, and they start to have the same attachments. I like it, I don't like it, this is beautiful, this is ugly, right? We go through that, and then you develop these feelings, and ultimately you cling on to those things, and at the time of the death, that goes with you, and you're back to rebirth because that's what you want. And it keeps us going and going and going, right? So we need to be aware of it. There's a lot more to this in the modules, but just to give you an idea, when we talk about links, what is a link? It's like a chain of events. And this is Sakyamuni Buddha's explanation of how delusion and karma bind sentient beings to samsara and then cause them to be reborn into suffering again and again. Okay? And that's why when you go out of this door today, take a look at the picture that's hanging there. This is they obviously talk about the links, but this is the wheel of life. And it's very important. The very centerpiece has 3 things in it. They are the 3 poisons. The second circle around it is the karma. Then you look at the different realms, the God realms and the hell realms. And then at the edge, at the outer circle, are the 12 links that keep you going. And it's under the claws of the Lord of the Death, right? And saying this is why I got you under control. And you keep going. The best part is on the top right-hand side, you see the Buddha pointing finger. He says, I can take you out of it. Not him, his teachings. Okay? So that's the important piece. That's what's called wheel of life. So it's kind of good to know. It's amazing how these Tibetans, this entire teachings from Lama Tsongkhapa, when you start to look, every drawing, everything has a meaning. Even the moon has a meaning. The Buddha pointing has a meaning. All the pictures have a meaning. How it's in the claws of this, control. And this is why we keep on cycling again and again and again. And our goal is to get out of that cycle. Okay? And of course, we get into the greater scope as you advance. And here we talk about equanimity. We talk about perfection of wisdom or emptiness, bodhicitta, and obviously the 6 perfections. Okay? So let's talk about equanimity. Okay? What is equanimity? Okay, I know Jill and a couple of you they do some beautiful meditation on equanimity, and they talk about putting somebody you like in front of you, visual, somebody you don't like, and somebody that's neutral in whichever configuration. The idea is to really think about it. What is it that you like about that person? Okay? And then you look about the person that you can't stand, and you think about what is it that you don't like, right? And then you go to the person that's neutral. Neither I like them or neither I hate them, right? That type of a person. When you contemplate a little more, you find out it all stems from here. A nice person does what you like, what I like. He's really kind to me, he always treats me well, he does all the things I kind of agree with, that kind of thinking. It's really amazing. Think about those 3 poisons again at this point. Attachment. Ego, right? Ignorance of not knowing, this solid I. Okay? And so then we say, I hate this person. He always gives me a hard time. He's always nasty, right? We kind of forget the bodhicitta part, that they are doing what they're doing because in whichever mind they are looking for their own happiness. But we connect that with us because it's interfering in some way with the way I thinks. Correct? And so we talk about equanimity. So it's a great meditation to think about it. And we all have people we can't stand, and we all have people we like. So sometimes just put that in perspective and not get too much into it. Like, just understand that. It's a very specific state of mind, right? Enemies, friends, strangers, as we talked about. And just so you know that we are all equal, and we have a wish to be happy. Each and every one of us has a wish. Geshe-la says that all the time. Is there anybody here that doesn't want to be happy? Does it matter what race, color, religion, country, origin, where you're from? No. Fundamentally, everybody wants to be happy. I love when he says that, because it really puts things in perspective. Like, we get into our little mind of just chatter and keep creating all these karmic actions of mind. But when you realize that really how things are, everybody's just trying to do what they want to do to be a happier person. So anyways, equanimity talks about the attitude and recognition that even enemy, friends, and strangers are equal, right? This is not in terms of tall and short, by the way. It's all about mind, right? So Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archives, I took this note: an impartial mind that serves as the basis for the development of great love, great compassion, and bodhicitta. I think I might have that. So we just mentioned that. So we'll go to perfection of wisdom. Again, this is a deep subject. There's an entire module for it. There's no way we can cover this in just a short time, but just give you a glimpse of it. What is it that we are talking about? Okay. Clearly in the bottom it says the absence or lack of the true existence. Ultimately, every phenomena is empty of existing truly from their own side or independently. Emptiness also talks about the karmic side, which is the I, that we sometimes think it's concrete I that exists within me. When you actually analyze it, you don't find the I that exists. It's the mental projection of body and mind that creates this ego because of our activities we've done throughout the lives, attachment and aversion and all of those things. That creates a strong I, but the I does not exist on its own. It's a deeper contemplation, but that's what they're talking about. And again, in short, we can think about it this way. Conventionally, things exist, right? You are sitting here, cushions are there, this table is here, here's the cup. What do you mean by it doesn't exist? So don't have a misconception. They're not saying things don't exist. They don't exist the way we think they exist. There's a little subtle difference. We give concreteness to this cup. But if you really look at it, it's just a label, cup. Take the label away. I sometimes tell people, if you bring in a 4-year-old child and give them anything, will they know what that is? Because they haven't labeled it. Correct? They'll think it's a toy. They'll think it's something else. We label everything and we create concreteness. It's important that we have conventional way of labeling to have conversation. But this is talking about having an internal view of how things exist. Right? So it's a lot of thinking there, right? You need to think about that a little bit. So that's what they talk about emptiness. It is not like everything is a blank. You don't want to fall into that side. And they're not saying everything, and you can't say everything exists concretely. If everything was concrete, nothing would change. There would be no change. Everything is impermanent, right? Everything, and dependent arising. What does that word mean? You think about it. The food you ate today, the breakfast you had today, it didn't appear. Somebody had to package it. Somebody had to think about it. Somebody put it in a box. Some company owns it, right? Somebody puts it in the grocery store, right? The cashier had to be there, whatever. Think about all the activities that go on for you to have something, causes and condition. Take a table. There is no tableness in this table. We label it a table because it has a function. So we cannot deny that we will call this a table. So conventionally, when I say, hey, Hemant, can you pass me the table? We know where we're going. You're not going to pick out the door and give it to me. So we understand the table exists. However, when you really think about it, is it the wood that is a table? Is it the legs that is a table? So all you think about, it's a label we've given for a function. But if you really look at it, it has so many dependent arising. There are parts in it, that parts come from somebody else, somebody varnishes it, somebody designs it, there's a carpenter sitting there and putting the screws together, or a robot or a machine, but there are so many causes and conditions for this to come into your place. And it is your karma that brings that table in front of you. You could be in some other country where there are no tables and you don't even know what table looks like, or even the word table. So it's language and labels that causes a lot of this concreteness. We misinterpret a lot of these things. So the wisdom of emptiness, in the very basic terms, tells you the difference between conventional reality and the ultimate reality, how things truly are, and how dependent origination everything is, how dependent arising things are, causes and conditions that they bring things about, right? And that makes you very thankful, even brings the chatter down. We don't take so personally. It is not about you, it's not about him, it's not about something else. It puts you in real good perspective, and many teachers are directly able to perceive emptiness all the time. Now think of that for a second. Your mind can jump in a second how many thoughts you had. Now think about those advanced teachers, right, that can view emptiness. So that's what emptiness is all about. So the principal consciousness that combines the two factors of wishing to be free. No, that's the next class, next thing. But the absence or lack of true existence, ultimately, every phenomena is empty of existing truly or from its own side or independently, and that's how things are. Okay, that's good enough for the class. Very interested in it, plenty of literature out there. Pick up one of these books, talk to Geshe-la, and he will be very happy to explain to you. There are many teachers here, advanced students here. They can give you some little more insight, and I would suggest that this is a topic that maybe Geshe-la can give you, give you some justice in explaining it in a proper way. But I just wanted to bring it up because it's part of the greater scope. So the three principal aspects of the path, we talked about the 12 links, and we said, okay, now I really yearn, I want to be enlightened. So I want to create a mind of renunciation, something that I'm not going to get into this attitude that keeps me going. I'm going to try to understand how things really exist. And so the very important last piece is bodhicitta. Okay? So let's talk about bodhicitta. It's a principal consciousness that combines the two factors of wishing to free all beings from suffering and wishing to attain enlightenment in order to achieve that. You want to become Buddha to benefit all beings, all sentient beings. Remember the omniscient and omnipotent mind. That's the Buddha. He not only knows how and who, but how and what, and has the power to do. And that compassion is the only way to go and help another sentient beings. And that's why Geshe-la spent so much time on teaching us the mantra of compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum. Right? And he's asked us to kind of practice it, understand it. He talks about compassion. He talks about why do we want the compassion? Remember, we even say mother sentient beings in our tradition, right? Because if you had so many lives, things of how many eons and eons, we are all related and connected. He could have been my mother. Mother sentient beings. What a view. Rather than I, me, and you, this is a complete different view. So obviously Geshe-la talks about first having compassion for yourself, develop that, go to the closer ones, develop that compassion, and then have the compassion as you expand yourself for all, right? So it's very hard to think about it when you don't have one, but it can be developed, and it is a necessity. It is something we must develop in order to become Buddha, right? So that's bodhicitta. So I have next is a quote. I think it's an important quote. We are all involved in these human relationships with each other. Why do we some say I love you and sometimes I hate you? Where does this up and down mind come from? From the self-cherishing thought. A complete lack of bodhicitta. What we are saying is I hate you because I'm not getting any satisfaction from you. You hurt me, you don't give me pleasure. That's the whole thing. I, my ego, my attachment, am not getting satisfaction from you. Therefore, I hate you. What a joke. All the difficulties in interpersonal relationships come from not having bodhicitta and from not having changed our minds. This is the most direct you can be. There's no sugar on it, right? And we have a few more minutes, and so I'll just cover the last part of the greater scope. But before I go there, I have one more slide to share with you. Again, just to take a pause for maybe 30 seconds and think of what we've covered so far. We talked about taking that trip to New York and not getting stuck in New Jersey. Or we gave it, and we talked about going to school and seeing how things are organized, the preliminary school. Then we need to go to the elementary school, we go to junior school, then we go to high school, and we even have graduate and postgraduate studies, right? Similarly, you need to fully understand what is this samsara, what is this rebirth. We need to then come in terms with where do you want to go, what do you want to do, and determine for yourself if you want to take the refuge. Do you want to get onto the train for your spiritual journey and make a commitment to yourself, right? And in the end, you practice the graduated path and keep on your way going, and you will become enlightened. Okay? So the 6 perfections. So all these things we talked about, mental things, equanimity, developing bodhicitta, all of these things. But like I had mentioned earlier in the class, Lama Yeshe said it the best. He said, you bought your ticket, now you got to go to the plane, go to the airport, stand in the line, and actually sit in the plane. Action. Do something. Sometimes used as the word method. It's the wisdom, and then we also have the method, activity. Okay? The very first one is generosity. It does not always mean money. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with your service. You can be generous with money. So many ways helping, but generosity. Okay? When you give, there's 2 things, right? Giving, and you also receive the satisfaction. Okay? And you learn from it. And so it's a wonderful generosity. Second is morality. Okay, let's say, I'll say what Lama Tsongkhapa in the 14th century says in his lovely Lamrim text called Song of the Experience. Generosity is a wish-fulfilling jewel with which you can fulfill the hopes of all sentient beings. It is the basis of activity of bodhisattvas in that it develops a selfless and undaunted courage to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment. Right? They say the bodhisattva gives something, they feel like we feel when we get something. When they give, they feel that excited. It's similar to us how we get when we feel when we get something. They're so happy to give. Giving is a major way to open your eyes and connect with others. Okay. Second one is morality. Not too much to talk about. There's, of course, 2 kinds of morality. The wisdom wing says, refrain from harming others, very simply. And the compassion side says, actively benefiting others. So you've learned all of these wisdom things. You understand equanimity, you understand emptiness, how mind works, how the attachment and clinging and all those things create problems, what ignorance does. So you have the wisdom now. And the compassion side is the other wing that says, I want to benefit others. Okay, so that's starts morality. Just refraining from harming others is a pretty stunning starting point. Okay, so let's talk about patience. Patience is a very powerful state of mind and a very courageous one too. It's the most powerful way to purify attachment. Patience. Okay, we can think about patience, and my example is the red light and the green light when I'm traveling. It's like, oh gosh, I'm late. It's always red now. Every light is red. The truck comes in front of you, the school bus comes in front of you, and you think it's all because of you. Nothing to do with you. The light does its job. It's your karma. You got out late, and the truck had to be there. So patience is a good thing, So think about it in that way, and welcome it. And welcome sometimes when these things happen. Think about it in a positive way. So I've been doing this practice that when somebody cuts me off, and I see that rising, I say, one more merit. Just cool it. One more merit. Have some patience. And it just helps my mind a little bit rather than getting mad, especially when you're running late to work. Okay? And then when you do something, do it with some joyful effort, right? That's the fourth perfection. You want to do it with enthusiastic perseverance. When you come, if you are, Geshe-la told me one time, if you come into the center and it's like, oh gosh, I got to go to the center, something is wrong. You need to reevaluate it. But do it with some love in it, some kind. It's your own practice also. So we do it with joyful effort, right? And of course, sometimes we procrastinate our practices. We things put away, become lazy sometimes. And you need to develop discipline. So do it with a little effort, and a little bit more joyful effort, right? And don't say I'm not capable. Just say, yes, you can do it. So in conclusion, we desperately want to stay in comfort zone. It's too scary for us to move sometimes. And practice goes beyond that. What we can do already and something we can do enthusiastically. So actually just have a joyful effort of doing things. And then we have, of course, developing concentration. Okay? When we do this meditation. Our chatter mind, our permanent roommate in there is always talking to you, right? We need to calm that down sometimes and find yourself way to concentrate. So when we do this calm abiding and when we say count to 10 or focus on your breathing, what are you doing? Right? You're trying to practice instead of thinking of this and that and what I got to do next. And after the class is over, where are we going to go eat, right? All of those things happen in our head. Maybe you take few moments to say, I am here and let me just clear my mind and see if I can focus. And that's why we concentrate on a simple thing like breath. You can take any object you want. But there's a deliberate mindset to concentrate, right? That's meditation, right? Or you can take a topic and analyze it. But again, the whole idea of calm abiding is to develop concentration, okay? And becomes your experience. So lastly, we have, of course, the last one, the wisdom of emptiness. When you have these actions done, you will see yourself progressing, you'll see yourself developing, and ultimately you'll start to even see and perceive the emptiness. And once you've trained yourself and you've come to some classes, learn from Geshe-la, read the stages of the path, and meditate on it, you will start to understand a little bit of emptiness. And so in the end, you should follow the path. Okay? And any questions on that? And I would say lastly, please, at least as a practitioner, and those of you who are new, fine, but think about if you are interested, at some point talk to your teacher and start developing some sort of a practice. Put it into action a little bit. That's a wonderful thing. And so we'll do a dedication, and then I have a small announcement to make, and we'll just do that. Yeah, one more thing, just a quick dedication. Okay? So, how fantastic. Throughout the day, today's session, we've listened to so many things, trying to process them, analyze them, think about them, aspire, have courage, with a wish to benefit others. We dedicate all of these, the sowing of all these seeds for the sake of sentient beings. And then when we do become a Buddha, who else will we benefit? Other sentient beings. So this is for them. Long term, that's why we are sowing the seeds. And may this compassion grow and grow in the hearts of all. Thank you. That's the class for today. Hope you learned something. And I would just like to make a small little announcement. So you learned a little bit about bodhicitta. You learned a little bit about generosity and patience and morality and all of those things. So I'm going to just say one or two few words about service to Kadampa Center or to the practice. So I want to start by thinking that if you really look around, probably 95% of why this place exists is because of people who volunteer here. Amazing work. And I was thinking about it this morning, like I have to say these things. So what am I going to say? And this is what came to my mind immediately from my heart, I'm saying. I was able to come to Kadampa Center because of the bodhicitta and generosity of people who were in that basement practicing. If they didn't do what they did, we wouldn't have a Kadampa Center. So I'm thinking, what can I do for Kadampa Center so this place exists for all the people to come again in future, for the teachers to come here, right? And think about all the things we do. Where is Elise? She has this outreach program. So it's beyond this community reaching out. They were like 2 or 3 days at Elon University 2 or 3 days ago. Bet you a lot of you don't even know. They were there with Geshe Sangpo doing a sand mandala. Do you know how many bodhisattvas could be coming from there? Even if one comes, how great. If they were influenced by that in a positive way, I mean, right? So outreach is a program. She does so many things with interfaith. We have media. We have Chris here, Brian here. Just think quietly they're sitting in there, but how helpful the slides were to you or not. But if they're helpful, without them, this won't be there. Look at the spiritual coordinator. Think of every program, every teaching, all the rituals, all the traditional things we do here, all the visiting teachers. Somebody in the background is running crazy, organizing it, coordinating it, and doing it. Why? So the community can benefit, right? We have teachers coming. We have so many other things. So I would say if you have a talent or you want to practice your generosity, and I'll give you just a small example. When I first came here and I was doing the bowls here, for the water bowls, sorry. And after I did it, somebody came and said, do you know you can offer a cloud mantra when you finish offering the bowls? And I'm thinking, oh, what the heck is a cloud mantra now, right? So when I came here, I was excited, but also overwhelmed. All the things that are going on, all the things I need to learn, my mind is going all over the place. But as I started to volunteer, a couple of things happened. So not only giving, but now receiving. Somebody's teaching me what is the cloud mantra. What is the meaning of offering the bowl, right? Then I start meeting these people, right? I met Jill, and I met Denise, and I meet Elise, and I meet just wonderful people in Kadampa Center. I can go on and on, who in some way or the other influence you positively in your journey. So it's not only giving, but it's receiving for me. And so I just humbly ask that if you have a talent or you feel like you like to practice your service, that you see Jill or our spiritual coordinator and see how you can help. There's so many needs, especially when a teacher is coming, okay, they need some help. And it's wonderful to come in this Kadampa Center, and Jason is not here today, but to see his smiling face with a little puppy in the hand, and to give him a hug, to see Alex, to see Sandra, to give them a hug. It's a wonderful place, and think of the new people that are coming here. What is the impression we give and how we influence them positively. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Hemant. Let's turn to page 191 in the gold prayer book, or the green sheet in the white binder, and we'll say the praises to the 21 Taras. From your sublime abode at the Potala, O Tara, born from the green letter Tam, your crown adorned with Amitabha, action mother of the Buddhas of the 3 times, Tara, please come with your attendants. The gods and demigods bow to your lotus feet, O Tara, you who rescue all who are destitute. To you, Mother Tara, I pay homage. O my prostrate to the noble transcendent liberator, homage Tara, swift heroic, as like lightning instantaneous, sprung from opening stamens of the Lord of Three Worlds, tear-born lotus, homage she whose face combines 100 autumn moons at fullest, blazing with light rays resplendent as a 1,000-star collection, homage golden blue one lotus, water-born in hand adorned, giving effort, calm austerities, patience, meditation, her sphere, homage crown of Tathagatas, actions triumph without limit, relied on by conquerors' children, having reached every perfection, homage filling with Tutare, whom desire direction and space, trampling with her feet the 7 worlds, able to draw forth all beings, homage worshipped by thee, all Lord, Chakra, Agni, Brahma, Marut, honored by the host of spirits, corpses, Gandharvas, Yakshas, Tray and pay sounds, destroying fuzz magic diagrams, her feet pressing left out right and blazing in a raging fireplace. Homage to her very dreadful, destroyer of Mars champions, she with frowning lotus visage, who was slayer of all enemies. Homage at the heart her fingers, adorn her with 3 jewel mudra, the dream masses all excited, all directions wills adorn her. Homage she so joyous radiant, crown emitting garlands of light, mirthful laughing with Tutare, subjugating Mars day. devas, Hamid she able to summon all earth guardians assembly, shaking frowning from her whom sign, saving from every misfortune, Hamid crown adorned with crescent, moon all ornaments most shining, Hamid Tava in her hair knot, sending out much light eternal, Hamid she would wreath ablaze like eon ending fire abiding, restless up and choice around you, troops of enemies destroying, Hamid she who strikes the ground with her palm and with her foot beats it, scowling with the letter whom the 7 levels she does conquer, Hamid happy, virtuous, peaceful, she whose field is peace nirvana, she endowed with omen so high, destroyer of the great evil. Joys around it, tearing foes' bodies asunder, freeze with whom in knowledge mantra, arrangement of the 10 letters, homage Turi with seed letter, of the shape of syllable, whom by foot stamping shakes the 3 worlds, Meru Mandara and Vindhya, homage holding in her hand the hair mark moon of Deva lake form, with the spoken Tara and Pei, totally dispelling poison, homage she whom gods and their kings and the kinnaras do honor, armored in all joyful splendor, she dispels bad dreams and conflicts, homage she whose 2 eyes bright with radiance of sun and full moon, with Asara and Tutare, she dispels severe contagion, homage full of liberating, power by the set of 3 natures, destroys hosts of spirits, yakshas, and raise corpses supreme Ture. These praises with rude mantras and prostrations, thus are 21. And now on page 190, the prayer of the benefits. Whoever is endowed with devotion for the goddess and recites this with supreme faith, remembering it at dawn, upon waking, and in the evenings, will be granted all fearlessness, will perfectly pacify all negativities, and will eliminate all unfortunate migrations. The multitudes of conquerors will quickly grant initiation. Thus endowed with this greatness, one will eventually reach the state of a Buddha. If affected by the most terrible poison, whether ingested, drunk, or from a living being, just by remembering will one be thoroughly cleansed. If this prayer is recited 2, 3, or 7 times, will pacify all the sufferings of torments caused by spirits, fevers, and poisons, and by other beings as well. If you wish for a child, you will get a child. If you wish for wealth, you will receive wealth. All your wishes will be fulfilled, and all obstacles pacified. And now on page 246, we'll do the dedication from Master Shantideva. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And now we'll flip forward to page 244 and say the long life prayers for His Holiness, for Gyume Khyentse Rinpoche, and for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. The one who mastered his speech at a very young age, the one with great patience who received the name Awatari, the one with great precision who spread the teachings of Lama Tsongkhapa on bliss and void, Lama, ornament of the yellow hat tradition, please remain until samsara ends. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Om Tari Tu Re So Ha. 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 And now I think there's a few announcements. Elise, you want to go?
Hi, I'm Elise from Outreach, and next Saturday we have an opportunity to practice compassion in action by helping to clean up the environment for all sentient beings with the Adopt a Stream program at Lake Johnson next Saturday, November the 2nd from 9 to noon. And if you're interested, there's a flyer like this by the back door and who to contact. It's also on our website. Next Sunday, the 3rd, in the afternoon, there's an opportunity to practice compassion and getting to know people of other faiths and cultures with an interfaith prayer service with the theme, Shine Your Light. And it'll be held next Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Again, there's a flyer by the back door with greater details and on the web. Thank you.
I'm excited to tell you about our newest teacher that's coming first 2 weeks in November. The Venerable George Chernoff has not been here for 5 years. When he was here last, at that time I was a volunteer driver, and so I got to drive him to class. Robbie would bring him to class, and then I would drive him home. I think he was staying with Robbie at the time. And so I got to have some personal time with Venerable George. He would talk to me about the teachings. I was new to Kadampa, not necessarily new to Buddhism, but as a gratitude when we would get home, he would say, "Do you have any questions?" And of course, he caught me off guard that first time, and so I didn't know what to say. I kind of stumbled through that, but I was prepared the next time. And so one of the struggles I had at that time was rebirth. Everything else made sense, and of course, the logic of Buddhism doesn't work without rebirth. Well, Venerable George recommended, I think, maybe 3 books, and that's all he said about it. And it took me a minute to find those books, and they turned out to be Buddhist literature with stories about rebirth. In other words, they were fictional characters, but describing how interactions between people in different lives and so on worked. And I kind of laughed at myself because he had left the center by the time I got the books. He almost tricked me into teaching myself and convincing myself how that works. And as Hemet just told you, things here don't, when in his explanation for dependent origination, things don't appear here without a prior cause and condition. So these teachers that come here don't just appear on their own. It takes sponsors. It takes a lot of effort. One of the benefits from being a member of the Kadampa Center is our affiliation with the FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition. So it's a worldwide organization, and Venerable George is part of that organization, and because of our affiliation with them, he's available to us. But again, he doesn't just appear without a prior cause and condition. Everything you see here is done by sponsors and by volunteers. Everything, all the organization is all done by volunteers. Of course, we have a couple of paid people, but we don't pay them very much. So it's all dependent on us. And the sponsorships for Venerable George start at $108. The number 108 is significant to our tradition, and a senior teacher can tell you about that. In Asia, monk means beggar. And in Asia, the monks would go out with their alms bowls, and they would get a free lunch. I mean, they would go, house to house with their alms bowl for a meal. And so Venerable George and I became friends, and I would take him to other places. I took him shopping. We went to lunch one day. I took him to a Thai restaurant that's run by a Thai family who were Buddhist. And of course, Venerable George, I've never seen him wear anything but robes. And so we were quite, we were noticed immediately. They were bowing so low. I mean, I can't bow as low as these people were. And so following that Asian tradition, at the end of the meal, the waitress didn't ask, well, is that 1 ticket or 2? So she just come to the table and handed me the bill for George and I both. But I want to encourage you to come and listen to Venerable George's teachings. He teaches with with ease. It's hard to explain. He was one of my first ordained friends, or the first ordained monk that I got to know personally. And when he left Kadampa, he went on retreat for 3 years. And so this is our first opportunity in, I guess, 5 years to hear his teachings. He's a MIT physics graduate, so he's scary smart, but he can talk on anyone's level. And so it's a very warming, engaging teacher, and I encourage you to participate in those classes and donate or assist in any way you can. Thanks so much.
Our time? We're doing our... Okay, good morning. Today is a Thank You Sunday, so we're going to do a little thing we did last year, and we're going to do it together this time because it was so intense that I thought it helped on a little bit because there was a lot. So who was here last year when we did Thank You Sunday, when we asked you all about different things that you did? You remember what we did? Okay, we're going to do it again. So you get to start.
Okay. If you've taken robes and ordained,
First, we're asking you
do we want
to
people
stand up.
Stand up. Okay, yeah.
So we
Okay.
don't have a lot of that today.
Not in this lifetime, anyway.
If you've ever been on the board, stand up.
Stand up. Have you ever been on the management team?
Have you ever been a teacher in the family program?
If you've ever been a volunteer in the family program?
Have you ever done anything to support the family program? It's a big program.
Have you ever been a leader in the Kadampa Center Prison Project?
Have you ever been involved in any way with the Kadampa Center Prison Project in any way?
Have you ever been involved with the Pen Pal program for the Prison Project?
Have you ever taught any Discovering Buddhism class? So you can't stand up like 8 times, I know.
Have you ever taught any Buddhism in a Nutshell class?
Have you ever taught any Meditation 101 class?
Have you ever been an assistant for any class at the center?
Have you, where are we? Have you been a Sunday morning program assistant?
Have you ever helped for a puja?
Have you ever worked with the media, recording and streaming for everything we do, and played music for the annual appeal?
Have you ever worked in the gardens in any way?
Oh, we got a few there.
There we go.
There we go. Have you ever planned or helped out with a party here? She's outside. By the way, we have Sunday tea next.
And have you ever planned or helped with the Sunday tea? They're out there getting Sunday tea ready.
Getting ready. Have you ever served to support our Sunday morning meditation circle?
Have you ever been a greeter?
Have you ever been a newcomer Q&A leader?
Or led new member orientation?
Or ever planned or been a driver for Geshe-la or Geshe Sangpo?
Have you ever been a driver for a visiting teacher? And since we've got somebody coming in a week, if you're thinking of being a driver for a visiting teacher, stand up.
You get to do that too. Have you ever helped with a visiting teacher in any way?
Worked in the bookstore?
Ever helped with IT support?
Helped our center manager with Jill with anything she needed?
Ever helped our SBC Donna with anything she ever needed?
Have you ever brought any in-kind donations like paper towels or anything?
Have you ever entered your prostrations during this year? Because we're counting them this year.
Have you ever filled a water bowl or taken one down?
Have you ever moved the cushions and chairs around for a class?
Have you ever handed anybody a prayer book that needed it? No. Oh, moved the cushions and chairs after a class.
They have to get back. Have you ever handed anyone a prayer book that needed it?
Have you ever opened the door for a Sangha member or one of our teachers?
Have you ever helped paint the walls?
Run an errand for the center?
Have you ever changed the paper towels or the toilet paper?
Brought in drinks for our Sangha members?
Have you ever washed or dried the Sangha cups?
Have you ever cleaned anything at the center?
Have you ever swept the sidewalk, mat, or around the stupa?
Have you ever watered the plants or taken care of our flowers on the altar or offered flowers on the altar?
Have you ever rescued a bug and taken it outside? That's crazy Buddhists.
Have you ever turned off the lights anywhere when you were done?
Have you ever brought the flags in when the teachings were over?
Have you ever been kind and explained anything to a visitor or somebody who needed help?
Have you ever hugged anyone or shook their hand?
Have you ever smiled at anybody just because?
So we probably going to get you all up by
Everybody
that point.
smiled at somebody.
You know that
Come
you
on.
guys have done a lot of those things.
You smiled. Come on.
Okay.
Okay. So look at this. Everybody in the room is standing because everybody in this room has done something kind or in some way or another. Just by being here, you're supporting the center. So let's all give each other and ourselves a round of applause. And we really want to thank you for everything that you've done to help our center be our center, our community.
Wait.
This is the moment when we dance.
This is the moment when we dance.
Okay, you can sit down. So what this exhaustive list demonstrates for us is that it takes all of us to make this center run.
So isn't it amazing how much effort goes into keeping everything humming along? We have over 150 roles here at the center. So sometimes it's good to let you see how much it takes to run everything here, and this is one way we do it. So last year during the annual appeal, we asked you to give one of four ways, or more than one of four ways: service, in-kind donations, practice, which this year is prostrations. Next year we have another one coming, or financial. So we want to thank you because you did. So to thank you for everyone who've supported us during the 2019 annual appeal. You can probably tell it's fall. We're going to be getting ready for the next one soon. So if you gave in any way, in one of these ways, there's a small gift in the back right next to Robbie. He can point to it for your refrigerator or something metal. I'll give you a hint. Now, we have a fun thing. Last year we gave away a dinner on us, and Gary Mickey won that, and we're laughing because he buys us lunch all the time here. So now we have the next drawing, and these are the people who've given financially in any way for the annual appeal. They already entered to win. So it's just like NPR. They've already been entered to win. And let's see. Sandra, why don't you come up here and pick one. Dun, da, 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 da. If you pick yourself, we have to decide what we do with that.
The winner is?
Loretta Shea. I don't think she's not here today, but Susan's smiling. She knows her. So this will be really fun. We'll get to send her a surprise. So she won brunch. I forgot to tell you, she won brunch at Irregardless for 2. So that's really sweet. So that's it. Congratulations to the winner and to everybody for serving us so well. We want you to know that you are appreciated. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hemant. That was wonderful today.
Steve, thanks. You did a wonderful job of talking about Venerable George. I don't need to say much, but I had a couple things that I wanted to mention. Actually, the Buddha, we know we have stories about what the Buddha did in some of his previous lives. For example, he was the king of a flock of geese that were living in this beautiful lake in a beautiful kingdom, and the king of that realm was allowing people to go and hunt the geese and kill them. And so as the king of this flock of geese, the goose went to the king of the realm and said, please don't kill my people anymore. You can have me. You can have my life to save them. And his compassion for his own people moved the king of the realm so much that he actually banned hunting the geese. Now, I don't know if this is one of the stories that Venerable George is going to tell us, but he is going to do a workshop this weekend on the Jataka Tales, which are stories about the things that the Buddha did in his lives before he became a Buddha. And that's going to be this weekend, Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday. So please do come for that. Sunday morning is going to be regular Sunday teachings, but we'll have the Jataka Tales. And then he's also going to be covering Discovering Buddhism, which I think is going to be Death and Rebirth. And he'll be teaching on Wednesday nights. He's going to do a special session on Thursday of the second week that he's here about translations from translating Tibetan texts into English, Dharma texts, working with the Heart Sutra, so come for that if you're interested. And then on the last weekend that he's here, he's going to teach about how to meditate on emptiness. So please do come to these wonderful teachings. And of course, we need your support, both as volunteers and financially, to make this possible. So we hope to see you all there and enjoying all of it. And that's it. Thanks. Go have a great afternoon. And we need people to help take down the water offering bowls and move the furniture and everything back in place.